I realized that tech literacy is just something that is really, really, really missing. And it's not just Black people who need it. It's not just creators who need it. It's not just people in NFTs or Web3 or crypto that need it.
I feel like I'm accomplishing my greater goals in life. I'm accomplishing my greater goals in life because I have created content with all of my sheroes and heroes, and we would say the best for last. Iris Nevins.
Or we're not recording right now, right?
Yes, we always recording. 24 hours a day we recording. 24 hours a day we're recording. Even when we're sleeping, we're recording. Because we're making history at all times. We're here, we say the best for last, emerging technologists, innovator, creators, the savior for creators like myself, to be free and independent, to be myself and be a misfit.
Yes.
To be a misfit, to be a technologist, to be a visionary. I'm at home because I'm sitting and I'm talking to a fabulous visionary entrepreneur. Everybody knows all of the headlines. I would like for you to introduce yourself. And this is a series about my network of people that I admire. They're the real technologists. They are the people who are building the future. And we saved the best for last for my friend Iris.
Thanks.
All the claps. Hey man, you're supposed to be clapping in the background, man. Everybody's supposed to be clapping. Okay. All right.
Thank you for that great introduction, Sivan Zell. My name is Iris Nevins. I am a engineering manager, software engineering manager, and also a founder. My business, in particular, we do digital community building around technology, tech education, and tech literacy.
I think that now that you have your pitch super tight, everything you have right now is super tight. So I gotta be really particular about my questions. Tell us a little bit about what is a tech misfit.
Yeah, I think of tech misfits as people who kind of found their way into technology in many ways, like on their own. Like it's not something that they necessarily grew up very familiar with or didn't have a lot of exposure to, but through a series of different events or experiences, they realized how powerful and important technology is. And then they had to figure out how to break in and how to carve out room and space for themselves in technology. And that path is not very straightforward, especially if you don't have a lot of people around you who are in tech or understand tech. And so it can be pretty challenging. So you might feel out of place in the beginning. You might feel like a fish out of water. But tech is for everyone. It should be for everyone. And so that's how I think of a tech misfit.
Well, I felt that way in 2018. I was here in Atlanta for Bronze Lens Film Fest, and I was, as usual, I'm an event person. I'm on Eventbrite, just looking up events, and I saw Atlanta Black Tech Week. And it stood out to me because I was interested in tech from a Fast Company, Wired magazine, from a reading and studying, and I had all of the gadgets that I didn't know how to use. I had all the new iPhones. I had everything that was new. I just didn't know how to use it. And I was like, well, at least I'm trending with the new stuff, but I don't really know how to use it. So I want to go to a conference a tech conference that might teach me and open my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Being there, I felt that because the first day I came, I had on a Versace shirt and I had on some dark glasses, and they were doing headshots. And I remember doing the headshot with the dark part of glasses on, with some skull and crossbone, like skulls on my shirt, and I'm like, this is not how you. Everybody else look book bags, and they look a different. They look. This world was different to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think where I felt that I had a position is that when I looked around, I didn't see anybody with cameras. So I knew that my position would be the person that would be in the room, the fly on the wall with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you build community?
Yeah. Building community is it really requires going outside of yourself and putting yourself out there. Um Being willing to go out and meet people, build relationships. It's one thing to build community around you, it's another to build a community that benefits and serves other people, right? It's two different things. So I would say both are important, both are really fulfilling. I do in many ways I do the second. Like I'm a community builder. I build community for other people,
Okay.
not necessarily for myself. Um, but it really takes a level of like openness and humility and just really willing to go out there and meet people and see what they need and find a way to help and serve others.
I think my first time hearing about you, shout out to Mike Ross, my OG.
Yes, shout
I
out to
was
Mike.
I was hearing about the coming of this new technologist, Iris. I was like, okay. And NFT, was a big moment. And can you talk a little bit about that moment? Because I just remember hearing about you and I wanted to meet you. And I met you at one of your events. You were creating community. You had an activation and you were activating this community in Atlanta. And you guys were, having some dope events. I went to probably 5 or 7 of your events and they all were different. I mean, I remember getting on the camera once and I just loved being at your events because you had the cool people, you had the tech people, it was some music people in there, it was some event people in there, it was just a mixture of all people. And
Mm-hmm.
so talk about that moment, from an NFT perspective, that moment.
Yeah, so we at that time we were building a community called Black NFT Art, and we had I'm gonna share the backstory behind that. So I was working in tech. I was working at Mailchimp as a engineer, and I realized that uh, through some travels overseas to some countries in Africa and the Caribbean, I realized that there were really, really talented artists overseas that were not only struggling to sell their art, but also selling their art for really low prices. And I figured if I could help them learn how to use the internet to sell their artwork outside of their country, that they could earn more and that this would benefit them financially and professionally. So I launched an online marketplace for art for African and Caribbean artists. And then I started learning about NFTs and realized that NFTs was actually a really huge opportunity for artists to be on the forefront of a new technology, but also use technology to do something that has been really difficult for artists to do in the past, particularly digital artists. And that is being able to take your art, your digital art, and sell it as an authentic, original piece of work. That's difficult for filmmakers, it's difficult for musicians, it's difficult for animators, anyone who creates artwork through their computer. It's really difficult to sell your art as an authentic, original piece of work. And so I started looking into the NFT space and looking into what it takes to be successful in NFTs. And I realized that the successful artists had community. They had people around them that were really championing their art and their work, promoting them, supporting them, engaging them online, and amplifying them. And there were very few Black artists in the NFT space, and the ones who were not having much success and didn't really have community around them. So we decided to pivot our original business, which was the online art marketplace, and launch Black NFT Art, which is a community for Black creators to build their network, build their relationships so that they could monetize their art through NFTs. And so the events and the programming that we were doing, we started off doing online events on Clubhouse, on Twitter Spaces. Then we started doing in-person experiences, virtual exhibits, and so that was really what that was for. And what was beautiful about it is that so many people beyond just artists were coming out wanting to learn, wanting to understand this space, wanting to support, wanting to engage. And it just ended up creating this really beautiful network of people. And I was able to meet you, I was able to meet Mike, a bunch of my investors. And so the process of building that community has been really amazing. And I learned so much from that experience.
I would like to talk about, because you said in the word investor, and because I recently pitched, Mike set up a pitch with Jewel and Charles, and he was like, "Hey man, meet me over here and pitch this post production budget that you need to finish the film." And Robert Smith was there that day, and I just remember not rushing. This Robert Smith is at the Russell Center for Innovation, and I didn't rush because I wasn't excited about going to that pitch as a creator. I knew that they would think that I wasn't prepared and that I would, overtalk myself. All of the things that, that the feedback that I got was what I knew, because that's not an area that I feel like I am seasoned at, and I know how to make the connections. I know how to get in the room. I know how to work the room. I know how to create content. I know how to build a community around creating content. And I remember Mike telling me I should have someone else to raise money for me. Can you talk a little bit about that process? And, for the entrepreneur coming up that feels that they need to go that route, what do you say about that journey?
Don't do it. Oh, no. So, okay. I think that fundraising is something that has been almost kind of romanticized in this really unrealistic way. And you hear all these stories in the media, on LinkedIn, etc., of people raising, 2 million, 3 million, 10 million, 15 million. And the reaction has been, oh, that person did that. That must mean I can do it too. And now you have everybody wanting to raise money for their business without truly taking the time to sit down and understand, one, whether or not it's necessary, two, whether or not it's feasible, and three, whether or not it actually fits the fundraising kind of model and lifestyle and the requirements of it, whether or not it actually fits you as a person, your values, and what you're trying to achieve. And so, fundraising has its place, it has its purpose, but I think that most people that go out and try and fundraise actually don't need to. And usually it's once they start struggling and failing, which is what happened to me, that's when they start questioning it. And I went through that process and eventually realized I actually didn't need to do this. I could have built a very sound business without fundraising, but I didn't think that that was possible because nobody framed it to me in that way. Nobody said, here's how you build a business without fundraising. I just thought that was the only option. And so I would say explore all your options. And if you can build your business by bootstrapping, by taking out loans, by building slow and steady over a period of time. Use your day job to fund and invest in your business. Like if you can do that, I think that's just a lot. It's a lot more. It's just a lot better. And I know I think that especially for creators and creative projects, it's even harder to fundraise, and so you have to be really creative and like find alternate solutions.
Well, I have a crowdfunding campaign running live real soon on Seed and Spark. I have did a case study on larger companies like MailChimp and the new Cat Calendly, how they started and they built revenue, they built strong revenue centered companies and had very little investment in the beginning. And that's the model that I would like to highlight because I do feel like Atlanta has been that for a long time. It's been a place where you could come and start a restaurant and the restaurant be successful and be, able to fuel the money back and grow the business. I learned a lot from I'm in a lot of places with Pinky, and Pinky is always uh, talking about how she would take her money from Slave Vegan and spend it back on her marketing and spend it back in areas. And so I'm looking to study that a little bit more. What would you say to your community that you've built? You know, let's talk about Tech Misfits and where it is today. I'm very excited about it because I see that you're live and I see that you're, in a position to, grow the community and grow us as a part of the business model at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited about Tech Misfits. Tech Misfits is our new community. We just launched last week, and it's very exciting because we've been working on this for over a year and a half. We announced the community publicly last year in July of 2022. So it's July of 2023, and we've officially opened up memberships. And so I'm really excited. Tech Misfits is really, I would say, a broader, more refined vision. Black NFT art was a really powerful experience, and we built an amazing community. Um, and we learned a lot. And one of the things that we learned is that tech literacy, learning how to use technology, is not something that just creators need. A
Right.
lot of professionals need it. Um, there's a lot of gaps in people's knowledge when it comes to technology, and even something as important as digital security. How do you secure your online accounts, um, your assets, your social media accounts, your email, your bank accounts? Like, these are very foundational skill sets that as a tech professional, I have to learn as a part of my job, because when you work at a tech company, especially certain types of tech companies, they have a lot of data on their users, and so they become targets for hackers. And so we
Mm.
go through a lot of training on how to kind of operate online. And that training is very foundational because it usually the employees are the primary way that a company is able to get hacked, is through an employee that makes a mistake. And so, I came into the Web3 space, the NFT space, and people around me were getting hacked left, right, and center. I have not been hacked not once. Everybody that I know, to an extent, has been hacked. I have not been hacked not once. And a lot of that is because of the training that I've had in the past. And so I realized that tech literacy is just something that is really, really, really missing. And it's not just Black people who need it. It's not just creators who need it. It's not just people in NFTs or Web3 or crypto that need it. And so that's where the vision for Tech Misfits comes
Mm.
from. So for Tech Misfits, it's a subscription-based membership community. You have to pay either a monthly fee, an annual fee, or a lifetime fee in order to join. And as a member, you get access to online workshops, you get access to self-paced online courses, you get access to in-person networking events and experiences. We're doing trips and retreats. We also have um, a app that we're launching as well that allows you to network and communicate with other members through like private messaging, DMs, forums, and things like that. And so we're basically building this ecosystem of professionals who are really ambitious, really talented, and really want to thrive in the digital economy, and recognize that in order to do that, they need to be actively developing their skill sets and their knowledge, and also sharing their knowledge with each other, right? So that's what this is, and I'm really excited.
I feel like I'm a tech misfit because I believe I'm doing all of those things, and I think that the literacy part is the most important thing for me. That's what excites me. When I hear, you know, tech literacy, I put a hashtag on that with your name as the quote for where we're going, because I think for me, I felt like one of those people who are left behind in tech. And the reason why I do this for the left behind in tech community, for the people who, not just a generational thing, but I think it's a resource thing. I think that, I was interviewing Mark Lawson yesterday, and he talked about growing up in Atlanta, and around him was doctors, lawyers, and he went to a high school that had a program for engineering and for technology. He knew early on that he didn't know how he was going to get there, but he knew he wanted to go to school. And I was like, it was a shock to me because I thought everybody didn't have access to technology, but some people, some of our people in our community had access, depending on who was around them, or if their father or if their family member. What exposure did you get in tech? How did you get that exposure, and how did you become tech literate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think I had some exposure through just having some basic resources as a kid. So my parents had a computer. I was able to use the computer for school. I remember learning how to do video editing when I was like 14 or 15. I would make these little videos for little things. Um, and then when I went to college, I got a laptop. Um, but I would say that was really it. I wasn't my parents my parents had nothing to do with technology. Nobody in my family or my parents like friends were in working in technology. And so when I went to college, it wasn't something that was on my mind. I'd never taken a computer science class. I didn't know what a coding language was. Like all of that was foreign to me. I never even considered computer science as like something to do. Um, so it wasn't until I graduated from college, I was um, in the work field. I was working as a teacher, teaching middle and high school social studies. And I also was doing activism work, grassroots community organizing in South Florida. And there was an initiative I was leading to implement processes and systems in my organization so we could be more effective. And one of the volunteers on our team knew a little bit of Python.
Okay.
And so she was helping me implement this these new like processes, and she was like, okay, let's use MailChimp to start storing all of our emails, because we were sending out emails just through like BCC to like 300-400 people, which is not good, like you shouldn't do that. So she was like, let's use MailChimp, and then then she wrote a script so that whenever somebody filled out a form, the MailChimp database would automatically update with their information. And I remember being like, wait a minute, like you can do that, like you can like use you can link technology in that way and like automate things like that. It was a huge light bulb that went off in my brain. um and so then I started thinking about all the different things that I wanted to do that I felt like I couldn't do, and started thinking about like technology ideas, but I didn't know how to build technology. So I
Okay.
started doing research on how you build software. Realized that a friend of mine from college had went to a coding boot camp. She told me about it, but when she told me, I didn't understand what it was. So I was just like, "Oh, that's cool." So now I'm realizing, oh, she went to a coding boot camp to learn how to build software. So I called her and I was like, "Hey, can you tell me again about this program you did?" She explained it to me. She explained what like front end, back end, like what coding languages are, all that. And I just started piecing it together and was like, "Oh, I need to learn how to do this, because if I learn how to do this, I'll have a superpower and I can build solutions to any problem that I care about." So that's really how it started.
So you became the tech misfit to empower the new tech misfits.
Essentially, I initially I wanted to build tech for activists, because
Wow.
I'm an activist and I'm looking at these activists that are pouring their heart and soul into their activism work, and I swear to God, nothing was happening.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, you got people out here who are so passionate. I mean, South Florida was a beautiful kind of hotspot because of the murder of Trayvon Martin. So there was a lot going on in South Florida. I don't think that in South Florida much has really changed in terms of policy, in terms of kind of like local programs that are driving like systemic change. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of it has to do with the fact that these activists don't have the proper skill sets and the proper tools to actually create change on a systemic level. And it's really hard to do that through politics, but you can do it by building your own tools, building your own technology. And so that was the reason why I decided to go into tech. And then things just evolved from there.
I want to bring you back to that. And me being a native of Florida, I've had two Floridian sheroes of mine to have this conversation. I want us to, at some point, have a conversation about tech activism and how we can go back to Florida, where we grew up, and support activists in a lot of verticals. I'm working with a group in Jacksonville right now around recidivism, and I would love to have that conversation on. Mark was talking about he's working with Black Men Lab right here in Atlanta, and I feel like what Nashley is doing in Mississippi to build a tech district in Jackson, Mississippi. What are your plans for the future? What are you gonna, after you're successful, you built this company? What's the vision for the future?
After I built the company, I don't know what comes after I build it, but
After you get the bag and you're successful, I'm visionary filmmaker, so I see where things are going, and I'm always thinking ahead.
yeah,
Where are you going with it?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think a part of me wants to just retire and just get a farm somewhere rural with like, not rural, like an hour outside of Atlanta type of thing. Um, with like 30 acres and just be out there with my kids and my family and my animals, and you know just do that. I really don't know what happens next, but I
I love that though.
I think that would be
I
cool.
was just in Chattanooga Hills and Serenbe, and I'm all about that. I'm thinking about moving from California to Serenbe,
Hmm.
literally from that. So I mean, stick to that. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Stick to that vision. That's a great enough vision. In closing, give me 3 lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur that you would tell your past and future self and
Hmm.
other entrepreneurs that's coming up in the game. Give me 3 critical lessons.
I would say the most important thing in building your business is having a very clear business model in which you've calculated all of your costs, hypothetical costs, and hypothetical revenue. And you've created a model in which the costs and the revenue makes sense and allows you to eventually become profitable. I think that's the first thing to figure out. It doesn't matter how much you love your idea. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about it. If the financials don't make sense, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
You got to come up with something else. The second thing I would say is, especially to myself, is not to rush. Don't rush decisions, especially big decisions, to take my time and really really gather information and feedback from multiple different places. There's a lot of people that will offer advice, and not all advice is good advice. Okay. So take the time to listen to multiple sources and then come to your own conclusion. Doesn't matter what someone has done or accomplished. It doesn't mean that they're right. And also on that note, also, even if someone says they've accomplished a lot, really dig deep to understand what they've accomplished and how they've accomplished it. Do not hesitate to ask them for numbers. Oh, you sold your company? How much did you sell it for? How much profit did you make? How much did your investors make? Like, get that information, because what they tell you on the surface might not actually add up when you dig deeper. And so that is something I've learned. And then I would say the last thing is to solve one problem at a time.
Solve one problem at a time.
One problem at a time. It's real easy to get caught up once you realize, oh, along the way you're gonna realize how many problems there are that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And you gotta learn to just
solve one problem.
Let it go, focus on one thing.
All right. In closing on that note, I would just like to say thank you for being a person who would, offer value. Light bulb came up in my brain because when you said you work for MailChimp, and I was looking at starting a new account and really like just trying to lock my network in. So I'm gonna pick your brain on how to start, with MailChimp and grow me an account and that kind of thing. This podcast or this conversation was around my network and around people that I admire to learn from. Like, I'm going to take this content and I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to put it in front of the people that I feel like could learn or they could offer value. How can we help you in closing? Like, what do you need? And how can we support you?
I love that question. Join my community. If the vision that I've created or the problem that I've mentioned resonates with you, join. If you can't afford it, let me know. We'll figure something out. But it's very affordable right now. And we also need instructors. We need people who have knowledge and experience to help to facilitate our workshops and help to design our courses.
So where can we find out about everything you're doing?
techmisfitsapp.com is the best way. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, Iris Nevins. You'll find me pretty easily.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. This has been a journey. The process will continue. The things that I've learned along the way is that if you show up, you're willing to learn, you're willing to have an open mindset, you'll always be able to create a result. And if you treat people well and you pay it forward, it always come back. It's a spiritual journey more than it is anything. And just continue to be yourself, show up as yourself. Do not feel that you have to be anything other than who you are. And the more confident confident you are in accepting that you're unique, then you can just grow and you'll impact the people you need to impact. And it won't be everybody. Everybody won't be a cheerleader for you. Everybody won't be, an acceptor of your vision. But the people who will, they will follow you. They will continue. And for me, I'm a person who believes in you. I believe your vision. And I believe in a number of people's visions. I saw Kit Labs them talk about this. I saw them together. I was at Russell Center, I had cameras on them, and they were talking about, they were writing it down. We're going to build a space for technologists to come and work. And then the reality is, like, we're sitting in Kit Labs a couple years later. And so I do think that everything takes time. You got to be patient. You got to have fun. We signing out, man. We in Atlanta. Hey, man, we in Atlanta. It's my birthday. My hair is blue, and y'all already know what it is. We turning up 100% after the day. Self-care for the rest of the month. The rest of the month, we're doing self-care. Ashley talked about self-care. What's your self-care practice in closing? And we out.
I give my dog a lot of hugs. I probably annoy the hell out of her, but my dog is just, so many endorphins get released just from spending time with her. And I go on long walks with my dog.
Self-care is necessary, man, for all creators, for all innovators, for all rebels. We here with Iris. This is a phenomenal entrepreneur, her journey, her story. Follow her. This is just me trying to show her love, show Farrah Allen love, Travis Nunley love, my man Mark Lawson, Dr. Nashley Seifers was on with us. We just had a phenomenal group of people that just came through on a phone call. Hey, can you come show up at Kit Labs? What's going on? I just need you to come. I just need you to come talk to me. Okay, yeah. So, we just doing as much as we can to empower and inspire each other in this ecosystem. Check out.